Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching Despicable Me 4, starring Steve Carell, Kristen Wiig, Joey King, and Will Ferrell. So the Despicable Me movies have certainly had a lot of changes and a lot of big moves over the years. From becoming the film series that launched Illumination Entertainment as an animation studio to being uh, less of a series about Felonious Gru and more about the Minions, as they've spawned spin offs, box office smashes, and a million inaccurate Facebook memes. But now that we've got the fourth entry in this series, not counting the two Minions spin offs, let's see what story Gru has to go through this time. The story here is that Gru, played once again by Steve Carell, ends up with a villain that from his past, Maxime Demal, played by Will Ferrell, sounding an awful lot like Cyril the Paradox from the Sly Cooper games, as he ends up besting Maxime Demal at his old school. Yeah, there turns out Gru went to a school to learn how to become a supervillain, and Maxime declares revenge once he manages to be apprehended by the Anti-Villain League. So, after Maxime escapes from prison, Gru and his family have to go to another town in order to go to a safe house created by the AVL. Apparently, this is one of many safe houses that they've made for agents who have villains that have vendettas against them. I guess that would happen over the years. So Gru, Lucy, played once again by Kristen Wiig, their three adopted daughters and their one now biological son, Gru Jr., have to basically live out in another town as the minions go through various experiments to turn into the Mega Minions, basically the superheroes of this world. That's all I'll say about the story. As you can see, the story here isn't exactly the one that's done with the most clarity. It's mainly a bunch of non sequiturs and a bunch of uh, just setups for vignettes before Maxime comes in for a big climax final battle. Now, it is true that the Despicable Me films have always had their little vignettes and their little funny asides, especially involving the minions, but it does feel like this is the most segmented of the films so far. A lot of the new supporting characters don't come across as particularly interesting or memorable because of that, except for Poppy, played by Joey King, who ends up being a Gru fangirl who tries to help who tries to do a heist with Gru. Ultimately, that ends up as one of the more funniest sides of the film, and the animation still manages to be as chaotic as ever, especially in almost all the Minions scenes. But despite the Minions having the same juvenile sense of humor that you'd expect from them at this point, they probably have the jokes that land the most in the film. Even if the superhero tropes that they're parodying here have been so done to death to the point where even designs that remind me of X-Men and the Fantastic Four don't exactly do a lot for me when they're, the minions. On top of that, Maxime Demal, while he does seem funny at first, he quickly overstays his welcome when it comes to a lot of his scenes. Especially considering that Vector, El Macho, Scarlet Overkill, the Vicious Six, and Balthazar Brat, the other villains just came across as more memorable and often funnier than him. Will Ferrell's clearly trying his best, but the script's not giving him a whole lot to work with. I could say that for some of the other characters too. The three girls who were actually were quite welcome in the first and second films, especially. They end up just not really doing a whole lot here. Lucy also doesn't only gets a few comedic asides to do, which is unfortunate because Kristen Wiig still kills it in the role, and I think she's really one of the best additions to the series ever since Despicable Me 2. And the climax just feels like it's kind of cobbled together at the end with the barest hint that it's a coherent story. So yeah, it's basically a film that's definitely going to please the Despicable Me faithful, but it's gonna come across as segmented and kind of annoying for everybody else. I had my fun with it, but I can see how this one would be just as polarizing as the third film ended up being. That's why I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. See you next time.